Is my mic on? Is my mic on? Welcome back. Thank you so kindly again for joining. Don't think too hard. With eToy, it's an experience. Tonight, we have a hot topic, and it's about Project 25. So if you guys don't know what that is, I'm going to give you a little brief uh, synopsis of what that is. And I have two co-hosts today, Kevin C. Meggett and El Hodge Saladin, to help me move this conversation forward and to also bring the knowledge. But you know how we do. We always got to say a prayer and we always have to bless the stage. For some reason, I've been doing this is my second season. This is like my 23rd show. You think that I will be used to this by now, right? I'm still nervous every single time. Every single time, but that is the anxiety that we are pushing through. We are not going to let that get to us. Me fedefun mayegun, me fedefun to the Most High, me fedefun to my Ori, me fedefun to my sign guides and protectors. I ask that you protect me and give me the words to say out my mouth. Let this podcast be blessed and let those that have an ear, let them hear. Um, please cover this podcast. We are bringing some great work and some great conversations to heal people and to heal the masses. And we always have to have a battle, even just to lead up to just getting the podcast started. So I ask for guidance and protection and to close the doors for bad and open the doors for good. And I give thanks. I say, oh. So we just gonna move this right along. This is a hot topic. I don't want to take too long with anything else, because we have two guests coming on, and they are going to help us with this conversation. It's about Project 2025. I had done a little bit of research. So basically, it's the right wing think tank, of the government. They put all their differences aside and came together and conceived and made a agenda for 2025, which is the first 180 days of the first Republican that gets into office. So they want Trump in office. So we have to do all that we can do not to get him in office. And I have never voted a day in my life. And I feel as though this year, this election, I'm going to vote. So they are planning on banning Head Start for children, banning books. Me, a writer, they want to ban the books before I even launch my book. And in my big old library that I have, they want to come and take everything. They want to ban rights for women. Uh, they want to take money from public schools to fund charter schools. And I want y'all to understand that everything will be completely under the administration of Trump. He will have control of everything. They want to ban the Department of Education. They want to ban the Consumer Affairs Department. They want to ban the Department of Health and and Human Services. They want to ban the Department of Labor, the Environmental Law, meaning they want to regulate Water and Air Act, meaning they are going to ban states from doing their own environmental law. Of course, they jumping at the LGBTQ community, label them as a degeneracy to this community. And also They are criminalizing abortions. So if we don't even have a right to say whether what do we want to do with our bodies anymore. They are literally going to come and lock women up while they got their feet on the stirrups. And this is just a brief synopsis. They wrote a 902-page paper agenda about what they want to have, what they want with the new America, the new world. And it doesn't seem pretty new to me. It seems like how it was in the 1920s, So this is just a brief synopsis. We're going to jump right into this conversation. I don't want to hold it up too much longer because I'm about to have an amazing and eventful ride this next hour or so. So get your pen and paper, get you some water, get you some tea, get you something to eat, sit down, relax, take your notes, chime in, answer questions. Please do. We need all the input. We want this conversation to go, and also spread the word. Spread the word. We need to be informed of what's taking place with our lives and how they are trying to, take over us again. Okay, so let's move this right along. So first we have Kevin C. Meggett. Kevin C. Meggett is a veteran, and this is off the top of my head, guys. Kevin C. Meggett is a veteran who was doing great work in the community in the Bronx. He launched his own organization called Veteran Action Now. He actually has an initiative with the White House as we speak. Isn't it ironic? He has an initiative with the White House as we speak, about violence and things of that nature. He has so much work done in this community. And I am proud to say that he is my brother. So let's bring him right in. Kevin C. Meggett, welcome to the stage.
Hey, how's it going, Nee? Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure always sitting here chopping up good game with you. Thank you for the off the dome. It was good. I mean, shoot, you can freestyle. you know, Thank you so much. The initiative you were talking about, I'm working with an organization called Diversity and National Security. Um, uh, Shout out to Asha uh, Castleberry Hernandez, and the whole Diversity and National Security Network. And yes, we're working very close with uh, gun violence in America, um, and trying to put a handle on it. So, the work that I've been doing has been, um, you know, I'm standing on business. You know, we gotta. It's not about me.
Ashe.
It's not about you. It's about them babies.
Ashe. Ashe. And this is not Kevin's first time on this podcast. Kevin's a great dear friend of mine. It seems as everything that I do, it always starts with him first. I got into my spirituality because of him. He was like, "Here, take this DVD. Did you watch that DVD? Did you watch that DVD? Spirituality versus religion." And also, he was the first guest on my podcast in the first season. The first time I performed my poetry was at
I
his
know.
podcast. It was like is at his event. Everything. Oh, the first time I vended was at your event when I was making my
Yep.
products. So it was just like, you signed up in this world to be one of my guides. So I would just want to say thank you. Jay Blook said, "What's up, Kev?"
Oh, what's up, Jack?
Yep. So we're gonna move right along. We're gonna bring in our next guest, which is another dear friend of mine, brother Chandler L. Hodge Saladin, right off the top of my dome. Um, he is the former dean of Sister Clara Muhammad School. He leads initiative back and forth to Mecca. He is doing so much great work. With also with you, he has been to the United Nations as well and doing work out there. We got some heavy hitters over here. He's also a part of the Nation of Islam. And this is off the top of my dome. These brothers' resume is so long. I should have had it right in front of me, but I'd rather let them, tell you who they are. And brother L Haj Saladin, this is not his first time on my podcast either. He was here 3 times this season. Um, he also, I can say, started my journey with him. He used to always school us, no matter where we was at. The conversation will always be, read, go think, don't listen to what I say, go research it. I could be telling you anything. He the one that started my library. I have a big old library. For my birthday, he used to gift me books. That's a beautiful gift that you can't replace. Knowledge, you cannot replace that. So I just want to say thank you to my mentor as well, brother L. Hodge Saladin.
Thank you. Thank you once again. And thank you for Brother Kevin, of course. And Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I would like for Brother Kevin to start it off, and then we can engage and get into this subject called Project 2025. But before we do that, Brother Kevin, if you don't mind, um, many of us have to be engaged in voting. The only way we're going to change the situation, we can't sit at home. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. That's your choice of who you're going to vote for. Who you're going to vote for is your business. But at the same time, it's the policies that you're voting for. When you vote for the candidate, you're voting for the policies. And some of us have to read what they stand for. I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party. What are their policies? How does it affect your pocketbook? Even their foreign policy, their domestic policy. Because at the end of the day, those of us who are half a century and older, or maybe a little bit younger, what are you going to leave your next generation? Because we fighting the same old battles. They haven't stopped from 1865 to 1964, and 65 is 100 years. The Civil Rights Bill, the voting rights, many was not pleased by that. They weren't pleased by Brown versus the Board of Education in 1950s. They weren't pleased by these achievements, but they kept their head down. They waited for presidents that spoke to their philosophy, and they move in their agenda. So I'm going to end it right there and let Brother Kevin begin. But at the same time, I'm telling you, the people out here that's listening to us, know who you're voting for, because sometimes you'll be voting against your own interests. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. And as we're talking about this Project 2025, I feel the same way you do. I just don't see it's. I don't see the comparison and contrast is 2025 is no different than Project 1925 or Project 1825 or Project 1725. I mean, we were never really thought about in this corporation when it was put together. So, but here we are in this corporation, and voting is very important. But a vote without economic structure doesn't mean much. So we have a lot of work to do as a family in terms of getting our finances together, purchasing things like judges and court systems, and not relying on someone to teach us. But one thing I love, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, um, he was huge on do for self. So if you look at the average child in the Nation of Islam and their schooling compared to the child either in charter school or public school, they have a much higher, superior education because we're controlling the narrative and we are controlling the fundamentals of that narrative, or what they would call the curriculum. So this you could have a school for LeBron James and any all of these entertainers, but it's not the school; it's the curriculum, and we don't own and control anything. We actually consume everything. And so that's a challenge that we have to do. And, I urge people to vote as well and stand on policy. And when you're standing on policy, what matters to me, two things matters a lot to me, and that's national security. National security is a very big interest of mine, and inclusion. And you can't really sit around and beg anyone to make you inclusive. We have to get together and include ourselves. So basically, not being able to crop us, we're cropping ourselves out of a picture that we rightfully belong, and we need to start running to our exception um, as opposed to running from it. And with that, I yield.
Well, you mentioned one of the great leaders of the 20th century, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. A lot could be said about him. And, with some of us, okay, there's always suspicion of what their motives were. But he had a program and he had a track record for over 44 years. And he produced some of the great, people can check it out. Even in Dr. Claude Anderson's book called Power Economics, he referenced those two individuals, Marcus Garvey and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Of course, there were other leaders, but when you're talking about teaching someone that's been thoroughly destroyed, you have to go inside the person and you have to reform them. And he was a great reformer among not only men, but among women. Okay. And this is the problem with many of us. We don't love each other, therefore, we don't support each other. Every other nationality comes to this country and they benefit economically. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that in the Negro community, that's what he called it at the time. The so-called American Negro community is like a welcoming mat at your door. Welcome. Everybody comes in. South Korean, North Korean, uh, brothers from the Arab states, some of our African brothers. They come in and Chinese, and they come in our community, and our community is like a welcoming mat, like he said. Come, benefit economically. Don't put nothing back into the community. Don't eat. They don't even hire our people. And some of us, because of the self destructive hatred that we have for one another, we will not even support each other. But that's a whole nother subject because we don't want to veer off. We want to deal with the Project 2025.
Yes,
But
I want to stay
okay,
on
yeah,
topic
yeah,
because I
yeah,
know
yeah,
how
absolutely.
we do.
Yeah.
I want to stay.
So, but
What's
yeah,
your thoughts on Project 25 and how does that affect us?
okay. Well, Project 2025 is nothing new. They were starting this agenda since the 80s when Ronald Wilson Reagan was the president. Now, some of us may not have been born in the 80s. Some of us were. But it was Ronald Wilson Reagan that these conservative intellectuals came and had an agenda, and he supported it. But he won 2 terms, but they couldn't get everything done. So they kept their head down, meaning that they was off the radar. And then they waited for George W. Bush. And then 9/11 happened, and the Patriot Act happened. Then they was waiting for another president because they was chipping away. Then they waited. Unfortunately, the Democrats took control of the executive branch. We had uh, Obama as the president. He won 2 terms. And you all know that the Senate told the Democratic Party and told Obama to basically to his face that we're not doing anything. We're just going to sit and wait you out. This is why it's so important for us to really get involved as voters at the local level, the legislatures, the state legislatures, the federal government. We have to somehow understand that to make effective change, we have to be concerned on who the door catcher is. Who's our assemblymen? Who's our congressmen and congresswomen? Who is our state senators, our U.S. senators? because they're the ones who implement law and pass laws, and the president just signed it. They don't have any term limits. So even if you have a good president, he only has 2 terms. After he's gone, then they wait for someone else to come in. And so when Donald J. Trump came into office, President Donald J. Trump, according to what they said, what I read, they were able to effectively get 64% of the Project 2025 implemented. And in that Project 2025, and many of you read it because it's very lengthy, they said they was going after those who support wokeism. Now, those of you who in the Black, Latino community, and in some of our white brothers and sisters, they have weaponized certain words. We always use the term, you got to wake up, brother and sister, woke, wake up. Now they have strategically weaponized that word. But in Project 2025, they're going after people who support woke. They're going after DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are policies agendas that they're going after because they believe if these ideas keep spreading, then most of the young people will be less patriotic and be focusing on issues of social justice and equality. They're effectively doing it through the judiciary, but they need a president to really buy into the philosophy that they have. These people have been working for years. While we worry about not worry, what we concern ourselves with things that don't matter, they are affecting change. They have they're getting involved in the Department of Education. They want to shape policy. They even want to eliminate the PBS program, public broadcasting system. They dislike President Lyndon Baines Johnson because he's the one that said, you know what? School is not enough. We need public access to TV, Channel 13. Okay? They're going after that while we sit idly by and let these things happen. For us to stop them, we have to vote and we have to be vigilant because the things that our ancestors, and I'm not talking about the ancestors during the 19th century, I'm talking about in the early 50s. These things that our people, our aunties, our uncles, our family members, our grandparents and great grandparents fought, they have slowly eroding. The Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act was in 1965. Most of us wasn't born in 1965. Some of us was. I was born in 1958. When I was born, we didn't have a democracy. When it comes to African Americans, people of color, we only been a part of this experiment since 1965. And they weren't satisfied with that. Now, they gutted out a provision in the Voting Rights Act now. They want IDs now. Even if you give water to people that's waiting online, you can be convicted of a crime. All of these
Yep.
things we just recently got. We didn't get it in 1865. We got it in 1965. But they were not happy with that. Go ahead, Brother Kevin. I don't want to,
No. You spot on. Everything that you're saying right now is very spot on. You said something very interesting about under the Bush administration, we got the Patriot Act. They've never repealed the Patriot Act. We're still under the Patriot Act. It's never been repealed. The Patriot Act was meant to. That was where Big Brother was born. That's where. So you give up a lot, and so we're saying, oh, this is all of this is coming really from the Republican. And let me tell you something. You know what the difference between a Republican and a Democrat is? The way that they practice racism. It's a bird of you got a right wing, you got a left wing. They both belong to the same turkey. So in order
being that you said that, sorry to cut you in, but Bilal
Mm-hmm.
has a good question. He says in 2024, should the black man in America trust politicians?
the black man in America should become the politician. So no, because politicians, most of them, go in with good intentions. Some of them just don't. They just have poor intentions to begin with. But what happens is, and this is where money becomes very important. So you may come to me and say, "Hey, I voted for you." Okay, and you may say, "I voted for you too, but I gave you $10,000. Whose attention do I have? I got your attention because
Right.
elections cost money. If you don't believe me, this
Mm.
election is going to cost billions and billions and billions of dollars. What's interesting about this is that the electoral vote is now we're pulling back the curtain because it's a very this election amongst black men is very low turnout. Either black men are not going to vote or they're going to vote for Donald Trump, and they're doing it out of being dissatisfied for so many years. So it's interesting because popular votes matter on a local level for sure, but on a presidential level, it's almost rigged. You could win the popular vote and still lose the election. It's been done over and over again, and so it goes to show how much power the electoral votes are, and then we need to pull back the Iron Curtain and find out, well, who are these electorals and how are they voting? But then you're going now back to your think tanks. I yield.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I wanted to just update people. I'm going to update every now and again because we had new people coming in the room. Um, for those that are just joining in this podcast, this episode is about Project 2025. That's basically what the right wing think tank of the government has uh, an agenda that they have put together. And I just learned that they had this agenda going for put together for quite some time since the 80s. They just was waiting for the right time. But that goes to show how much they have so much patience just to wait for the right time, just to get us by our neck. And I say that for me because I don't have any patience and I'm still learning patience. And sometimes they always said you have to watch your enemy to see how they work. And by me watching them to see how they will progress over the years or over time of how they want to um excuse me, I'm sorry, how they want to implement their plan. So basically what the Project 2025 is about, them, under the Trump legislation, they want to ban Department of Education, they want to ban women's rights, they want to criminalize abortion, they also want to ban the Consumer Affairs, they want to ban the Department of Health and Human Services, they want to ban Department of Labor, they want to ban every damn thing. They want to ban Head Start for our children. They want to ban books, you know. So it's just like, how do we prepare ourselves for this? They want to ban the environmental laws. How are we going to be able to farm? They
You
want to
know it's
control the
interesting.
air and the water.
You know it's really interesting. My brother, he's a washer to a more, and he would always tell me, he was always like, you need to claim your nationality. You need to claim your nationality. And I'm like, dude, I ain't got time to claim no nationality. I mean, he does some amazing things as a Moor. I mean, but it takes time to get where he's at to do what he does. I mean, he doesn't have a driver's license. I've seen him pulled over and let go with no driver's license. I mean, and he just stands on business. I mean, he knows the law. What we have to do, and particularly and especially to counter this, if we're going to talk about countering this, one is participate, but participate with a knowledge of what we're participating in. America is a corporation. It's not a country.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And do you remember when Kanye West met Donald Trump and he said the United States he said the United States of. He said something. Oh my gosh, he said United. He read. I think he read the Black Dictionary. It was the United Corporation or something. And he said, "Oh, I meant to say states." But he knew what he said. What he said. He read the. It was the um uh Black Dictionary law. So we have to look at what certain words mean. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like in order to when we anything we do, spelling, we're casting spells. So a word can have various meanings. It's how you put it into it's the content you put it in. So we have to, not only just vote, get our economics right, and it's really easy when you think about it because the biggest thing that keeps us divided, in my humblest opinion, is religion. Black Hebrew Israelites say that they're right. Nation of Islam say that they're right. Moors say that they're right. The Baptist minister on the corner says that he right. And guess what? We're all right because we're the root of all of that. So now why aren't we working together? So if the Moors know the law, right? Um, the Nation of Islam, you ain't gonna get no better security than that. The Hebrew Israelites, they know they know how to make money work. Why aren't we working together? And I always say this, right? If we knew hedge funds the way we knew scripture, we wouldn't be on this podcast right now having this conversation.
Mm. Mm. Uh-oh. Boom. I wish I had my soundboard because I was at because I knew you was coming with something. One of y'all was gonna come first with it.
Yeah,
Um,
well,
El
yeah,
Hodge.
yeah. Let me say this, that all of these organizations that you mentioned, all of us want freedom, justice, and equality. For some of us, these words are just words, but they are grounded in law, in human rights, and then civil rights. As God rest his soul, Minister Malcolm said, he debated a lot of intellectuals saying we need to get human rights first before civil rights, because civil rights keeps us under the jurisdiction of Uncle Sam. And he said Uncle Sam was not morally enough, and that was 50 years ago, to be the judge. But he said if we put our agenda at that time, he said, uh,
For the world.
before the world, the United Nations, the world body, then we would have leverage and we can get freedom, justice, and equality. The problem with us, as these organizations you mentioned, it limits us. I know there's always exceptions. I always say there's exceptions. But our struggle should not only be limited to America. We are sons and daughters of the continent. We should have a say what's going on over there. But
Hmm.
first, we got to get our act here. Because let me tell you something. When you go to the United Nations as a visitor, not one seat is occupied by the black man and woman in America. Yeah, I know the president put his ambassador there, but I'm talking about someone or outside of America's jurisdiction, someone that the people in America chose as its representative to have a seat at the UN. Because most of our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, they have a seat at the UN. Most of our African brothers and sisters in the continent of Africa, Kemet, whatever you want to call it, they have a seat at the UN. Our brothers and sisters from the Gulf states, from Arabia, from Afghanistan, from China, throughout the globe, they all have a seat. We should have a seat there. We are a nation within a nation. And what you said, brother Kevin, you're absolutely right. We have all these organizations, but we all should be fighting for the same goal. Because guess what? If I'm on Highway 95 or the Southern State or some major highway and I run into a racist police, he's not going to ask me, are you a Democrat, Republican? Are you a Muslim? Are you a Seventh-day Adventist? Are you more? No, he gonna pull me over because of the color of my skin. If I'm getting followed around in some high-end store, they don't know what my religion is. They don't know my political affiliation. All they see is the color of my skin. We should be working together for the common good of all our people. That is freedom, justice, and equality. And as for our, I have a lot of brothers and sisters that may be watching right now who are Moors, who are very versed in the law. But most of us don't even know who Noble Drew Ali is. Very few people know who Noble Drew Ali, because he was considered by the Moorish Americans as Prophet Drew Ali.
Hmm.
He was here in the early 1920s. Many of us who are in Islam in America, we must give credit to Noble Drew Ali because he came with a different kind of version of Islam, if you will, in the 20s. He came a little bit right before Marcus Garvey, but he somehow died mysteriously. I'm talking about Noble Drew Ali, okay? And he was saying that we were the Asiatic people. He said that we need to learn about the higher self and the lower self. He
Hmm.
said that we need to learn about truth, love, peace, and happiness. These are all, and freedom, justice, and equality. These are all beautiful principles. We have to know what these men and women stood for so we can continue to struggle. We have to somehow, we don't have to invent the wheel because the very things they were fighting for, we must still fight for. The very thing that Dr. King is fighting for. The question we need to ask ourselves, if Dr. King, Malcolm X, Dharma Elijah Muhammad, name all of your leaders that are transition, if they came back to America right now from the grave, would they be happy with our situation?
No.
Of course not. We already know what the answer is, because we have not picked up the mantle and continued to struggle. Yes, we need to vote, but we also need to get involved in organizing and getting our heads together and find a way to become economically sufficient. Because I've asked people many times, tell me who the Chinese leader in America. Don't tell me they don't have one. Tell me who the Korean leader is in America. Tell me who the Arab leader is in America. They have leaders and they're effective, but they don't need to be on TV. They don't need to be on CNN. They get the things done. While we, like you said, Brother Ken, we argue over scripture and this and that. It's meaningless for as long as we at the uh as long as we are subservient and have this fear, well, oh my God, who's going to be the next president? Is he going to speak to our interests? Other ethnic groups don't worry about that. The Chinese,
Nope.
you notice, Chinese they don't picket, they don't march.
In fact, they
Chinese,
don't really even vote. They participate less than any other group, but seem to get the most done. And you can't tell me that we can't do it because take after slavery, right? We didn't have any voting rights, and but during that Reconstruction period, we became mayors and senators and governors. This is the Reconstruction period. We became all of those things without even having the right to vote. So, left in our purest state, we will figure we need to understand the game. Because if we understand the game, we will figure out we will find a loophole in it. I promise you. They didn't,
Okay.
I'm going to tell you something. They don't lock us out because we're the worst. They
Hmm.
lock us out because we're the very, very best at what we do, and we make it
Mm-hmm.
look effort. We make it look easy. We make it look. We put. It looks like we put little effort into it. So it's almost like putting a dog in a cage, right? And you never taking that dog out the cage, and the dog the puppy starts to grow into a dog, but it starts to grow deformed, and then you start pointing at the deformities. Oh, look at that deformed dog. You don't say, look at the conditions that made that dog the way it is. You understand what I'm saying? So,
mm-hmm,
with that said, what is going on? Like we're saying that this is a, a right wing movement, which
Mm-hmm.
it probably is. They're very blunt, and sometimes I mean, I'm gonna tell the truth and shame the devil. Give me my racist on a platter. Let me see who you are. I think sometimes I could actually have a little bit more respect for a Republican telling me that they don't like me than a liberal acting like they don't like they like me. And when I turn my back, they're icing me.
Hmm.
So it's a two-headed coin,
Mm,
and the only
mm,
way we're gonna be able to counter this is through creating the things that they have. They have the system, and now when I talk about the system, I'm talking about the system of white supremacy, racism. The system has a think tank that works 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. It doesn't take a holiday, it doesn't take a break. We don't have NAACP, NAN, CORE. None of them are addressing the needs of black people. They'll address the needs of minorities, women, children, immigrants, and so forth and so on. And so when we look at even things like affirmative action was really supposed to have been corrective action. And the only people that it was supposed to apply to were the people who didn't have justice in this country. And so affirmative action benefited everyone except the people it was written for. So you got humpbacks and whales and leprechauns and peglates and all these people got goodies under affirmative action, but the people it was written for. And so we got to stop playing those games. We got to start saying what we want. And sometimes you say, "Oh, I'm not going to vote because they don't give me nothing." Well, well, what do you want? And you press most people and say, "What do they want?" And they'll say, "I don't know, something." We got to know
Hmm.
what you want.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
want to jump in right quick. We have a couple of
Yes.
questions and comments. I was trying to
Yes,
wait for the
please.
perfect time 'cause
Yes,
I really
please.
don't want to cut you guys off.
No, please.
Um, so we had a great comment, and I want to answer some of these, and I'd like for you guys to answer it as well. Lynn Will Win stated, folks need to read it, talking about the Project 2025 initiative, not just say they heard about it. And also, um, she also said, how many people of color do you think has actually read Project 2025? How do we get the information out? So my first answer to Lynn, thank you for the comment and the question. I greatly appreciate that. And you guys could, piggyback off of whatever I say. Um, I have the 902 document. I'm probably putting myself out there. My podcast probably gonna get shut down after this, but I was blessed to get that document. Anyone that would like that document, please send me your email, and I will be so happy to send it to you. And as someone has sent that to me, the person has sent that to them, so forth and so forth. I will say, pay it forward. Send it out to as many people that you think. Send it out to everybody. Send it out to everyone that you know, and make sure you tell them to pay it forward for them to send it out to everyone that they know, so that we can be prepared and we won't be blindsided like how when COVID-19 happened. So if anyone that wants the 902 document, please put your email in the chat, or you could f- follow me on eToy. It's an experience. On Instagram, send me a instant message there if you don't want your email out and open in the public. Again, it's eToy. It's an experience on Instagram. And send me your email, and I can be able to send you the 902 document. Gentlemen.
Okay. Sister Lynn, um, the document is lengthy, but we're in a world now where our attention span has been shortened, and that's why the newspaper industries, many of them have went bankrupt or went out of business because of these devices that we are in front of. The newspaper businesses are suffering because the attention span of not just African American Latinos, but the American people generally don't have time or don't choose to have the time to sit and read newspaper articles. And then they started shortening the coverage line by line. They make short paragraphs. Now they have transferred that to social media platforms where they give you just little bits and pieces of information just to get your attention because they understand the attention span of the American people are very, very short. The only way we're going to know about Project 2025 is by reading it, and we got to take time to read it. Someone had mentioned also uh, about current administrations. We need to ask ourselves, the average voter, Democrat, Republican, or independent, how much do they know? I'm talking about the average voter. How much do they know about Project 2025? But those who we elected to office, whether they're Republican or Democrat, I'm talking about the elected officials. What do they know about 2025? That's what we need to ask them. So when they come around for our vote, particularly our congressmen and congresswomen, Democrats as well as Republicans, we need to ask them, what do you all know about 2025? And what are y'all going to do about it? What are y'all going to do about it? Because the average voter, they're working, they're trying to put their kids through school, that some of them live in environments where they're just trying to barely get their key in the door because of violence. They may not have time to read that. Sometimes we put too much of the burden on elected officials. We need to carry some of this burden too. But we need to ask our elected officials, do you all know about Project 2025? What are y'all going to do about it? Because these people, the Heritage Foundation, many of us don't even know what the Heritage Foundation is a group of conservatives who train their judges, many of them, but they almost like have like this cadre of judges. Whenever the president get elected and they have a vacancy in certain judgeships, they send some of these people from the Heritage Foundation. It's very well thought out plan of keeping us where we are. But as long as we keep ourselves involved in sport and play, I'm not against athletics. I'm not against watching NBA and the NFL. But most of us are consumed by that. And in reference to banning books, we self-ban books because most of us don't even have a lot of books. Many of us are not interested in books only when it becomes controversial, maybe some author, and we may buy it. But many of us don't make that a way of life of buying books, educating ourselves. And it's not just about you, because these books are for future generations. Because it may come a time where books would probably be banned, but particularly if they are very informative. But when people tell me, African Americans tell me about banning books, I say, well, what books have you bought in the last 10 years, in the last 10 months? You self-ban books. Until they start knocking down, kicking down our doors, that's when we're in trouble as far as banning books. As far as I know right now, I go to bookstores all the time. Nobody's asking me for my ID. We self-ban books. As I said during the last podcast, I listed some great intellectuals who wrote books. Many of them transitioned. We need to ask ourselves, do we have one book by Henry Clark, Dr. Ben Jonson, Ivan Van Sertima, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Do we have great thinkers, John Hope Franklin? There's a list of great authors that have wrote books, but many of us, we don't have no interest. We have self-banned books ourselves. We are relying on two P's, I call pastors and politicians, to feed us. I'm talking about spiritually. We're grown men and women. We should go out there and do it ourselves. Educate yourself. Be a voice. Because as I said earlier, what future are we going to leave for our children and our grandchildren? Because these think tanks, they already got a future. While we worrying about rappers and their beef, or some young man kicking a woman into some hotel room. I know we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but what are our priorities? What are our priorities? Because, like I said again, they have been working at this since Ronald Reagan, who was no friend of the black community. I'm not suggesting that all conservatives are racist, because some of them will work with us. Some of them want us to really put our agenda before them and get us out the way. Okay? So Reagan was no friend. And those of us who, I want to make this point, Reagan was also responsible for dismantling the Black Panther Party. Before he was the president, he was the governor of California. And him and Milford, who was here we go again with the legislator. He was a legislator in California. He was frightened to death that he saw black brothers and sisters with black tams on, with berets on, with weapons, legally. And then they created what was called the Milford Act. And Ronald Reagan, I believe, signed it into law. This is when he was governor. So he had an agenda to destroy black leadership. And this Project 25 also has one of their chapters called the intelligence community. The intelligence community. They're going after the woke culture. They're going after the woke culture. Okay? And so they got a whole chapter in Project 2025 dealing with the intelligence community. And so we're repeating history because COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program, was responsible for a lot of our leaders in the grave today. And why we are where we are right now, so divided. Because they killed our leaders, uh, created a distrust in us. And many of us don't want to step up and continue the struggle, fearing that uh, your fate may be the same thing as Dr. King and Minister Malcolm X and some others. But this intelligence community is just a new way of instituting the counterintelligence program. And those of you who read in books, you can get that. The counterintelligence program file, you'll see how they worked tirelessly to destroy the community, our black community. Okay? Go ahead, Brother Kevin. I don't want to be so
Okay.
long-winded, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
I know you
sorry.
have some
Go ahead,
questions out
Kev.
there.
You got
I
something you
think
want to say,
another way
Kev?
also is using technology. 900 and what, one page? It's a lot. So
It
why don't
is.
we just create? I mean, maybe you want to create another podcast and you could just break it down piece by piece. You have enough content
We could
for
do that too.
3 years, and so you could give it to them virtually. That's one way of giving it to them. Just get,
Yeah,
but
Hmm.
it's just very important that we get the information. One of the
yeah.
things I really would love to see us is to actually develop a code. We don't have a code of
Mm.
conduct. We don't have a code of conduct that we live by and we die by. And when we do get something, we freely give it away. We give away our culture. When you give away your
Mm.
culture, you give away, you give away your soul, so to speak.
Hmm.
And then people turn around and say, "Oh, well, black people ain't got no culture." No, our culture has circumnavigated this whole planet. And I'll give you an example. Blues is a culture. The music was just a representation of the culture. Gospel is a culture. The music was just a mere representation of the culture. You see where I'm going with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the
Yes.
way to hip hop, jazz, R&B. We have culture. It circumnavigates the whole entire planet, and then everyone uses it up, and then they say, "Well, what have you contributed?" And we have to. That's the only reason that we could be taken advantage of like that is because we have no code. We need a code,
Mm.
and one of my, and he's up there in age, and one hell of a Marine, Dr. Claude Anderson. That's like one of my master teachers. He's big on creating a code. You have to have a code. Every other group of people have a code. And so when you look at race, and this is how I was taught through Dr. Claude Anderson, it has very little to do with the hue in your skin, but it has everything to do with us belonging to the same culture and we running out and competing, getting things that will benefit us as a people. So, for instance, you have the Hindus. They got the cheap motels and the Dunkin' Donuts and the 7-Elevens. You have the Asians. They got the hair care, the Chinese restaurants. The food that they don't eat, but they'll feed it to us. You have The Arabs, they have the convenience stores, which replace the bodegas. There's really no more bodegas. They all Arabs were they call them convenience stores now. But you see, these people all come in and they're competing amongst themselves. They sponsor themselves, and they are actually setting um, um, resources for themselves. They don't need, they don't even need a. I'm not saying education's not important, but most of them are very successful, and they don't have any education. Their little children come from school, and they're working in the deli. They only hire their own. They only stay amongst themselves. You have brothers down in Maryland that were in the hair care industry that said, "Hey, I could." Went to the Asians and said, "Hey, I could sell you this stuff um, between 30 and 40% cheaper than what you're getting it." And the Asians said, "You people don't understand. We buy it because they're Asian. They're us. This is how important culture is. This is how they're on code. So we need a code of conduct going in and then we need to be able to correct things that we. So if we're wrong, we don't even know how to counter it. So that's when we start protesting and protest for what? I don't believe in protests. That just shows how weak you are when you're standing there with a sign. It didn't work in 1925. It ain't gonna work today. So we got to get out the protesting business, especially when we're wronged, because we become predictable. We have to become unpredictable. Wait a minute, they're not doing things like the way they used to, So even down in Florida, they're talking about removing Black history, and if you have and if they're successful in doing that, how are we going to respond to that? There's no such thing as Black history. It's not being taught in Florida. How do we respond to that? And I would say, honestly, you respond to it. It's an institution. You respond to it institutionally, and so you would say, okay, the rest of the country turns around and say, your degree ain't good. Your degree is only good in Florida. So don't think you're going to NYU or Yale or Princeton because you didn't fit the criteria. We got to be able to respond. We're so helpless. We look so helpless and weak. And then the only way we're going to get strength is through unity, but most important, through having a code of conduct. And with that, I yield.
Okay, so I know you got a rebuttal,
I know, but I want to
Saladin.
take some
So
questions. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
know some people
yeah.
out
Let
there
me
that
let
to be
me let me
fair to
get- let me
them,
get
we
in this
gotta,
chat.
yeah, be fair to
Let
them.
me get in
Yeah,
this
go ahead.
chat. So we have a few questions, a
Yeah,
few
please.
comments. So I'm gonna jumble around. It's not in order. So
Okay.
we have a new comment that came in. Thank you for everyone that's tuning in right now. I just want to say greatly appreciate you. NEPPC says um we need to promote a national consciousness. He also says we must organize. And I want you to respond to this because I think he was responding to you, Kev. But I also when you respond to it, I still want to get into the other questions and comments that's in the chat.
Yes.
Um, NEPPC says protest transforms the masses.
It's debatable. Protest also shows how weak we are. Show me what have protesting, what has it ever really accomplished? Show me what it has accomplished. That when you protest, it just shows when Asians are done wrong, they don't protest, but they get justice because they pool their resources together. When you have economic strength, you don't have to protest. The only time you protest is when you have no economic strength and you want to lash out, you want to
Okay.
say this is wrong, but if you had economic strength, if you had economic power, and I'm talking about the type of power where you could purchase a judge. This is what other groups do. This is what other nationalities do. They buy judges. And then we talk about, oh, we've been wrong. No, we're not competing. We stopped it. We are locked in a real live monopoly game. Make no mistake, slavery was 100% a economic issue. It wasn't a religious issue, wasn't a social issue, wasn't a political. It was an economic issue. So if we are in this predicament because of money, anyone with a fourth grade education to tell us the only way we're going to come out of it is the way we got in it.
NEPPC says agents have never had their culture infiltrated like ours.
I'm sorry, Asians or agents?
Asians has never
Asian
Asians
Asians have a code. Asians
like the
have a
country
code
Asia.
because they have a code. They're codified. We're not codified. We have no code of conduct amongst ourselves here in America, and we don't even have a code of conduct. So forget having a code of conduct with Africa. There's no unity amongst us here. So there's no unit. We're so disorganized that we're separated from amongst ourselves, and everything starts with self. So I can't hold Caribbean's hands and African hands, and I haven't learned to hold my hand. I need to learn to hold my hand because I got a lot of other hands to hold before I could get over to European hands and sing "We Shall Overcome." I can't even overcome within myself. Like race,
He
it's
says,
layered.
who are he said NEPPC says who are we? Who are the we?
We are the oppressed. Make no mistake, you can't mix an oppressor with the oppressed. You can't mix a slave with a slave owner. You can't mix wrong and right. You gotta pick a side and look the other side in the eye and say, we're gonna fight for what's right and what's wrong.
And he also says, and we're going to keep this moving after this. He says qualify over quantity. I want to get into what P. Monroe says. She says other cultures don't have as many sellouts as we do.
That's because we've been historically rewarded for selling each other out. There are statues in America right now of black people in parks, and the only thing that they did was foil a uprising. It was other culture. It's been rewarded. You get points for that. You get coins. You get resources. So it was inspired to do so. You couldn't pay me enough to sell nobody out.
So, and
Take
P.
take take
Monroe has a
Real quick. Take Denmark Vesey, for instance, down in South Carolina, right? He was getting ready to have the biggest slave revolt in the history of America, and it was a bunch of telling people that told on and foiled that plot a night before, and they were all rewarded. I'm sorry, what was you going to say now?
NEPPC says he's a professional organizer and he organizes the masses. I don't want this to get into a back and forth thing. I just think that it's just two people that has,
Yeah.
two different opinions. And I guess it's according to your vantage point, but I just want to
So he
say
could
thank you,
organize us to
NEPPC.
get economic stability.
Maybe you two
It's
should link. How about
Yeah,
that?
we could.
This,
Okay,
this, this
that's
is a
fine.
perfect opportunity for you two to link. So NEPPC, please shoot me your
And give him my
information
information.
at eToy. It's an experience. That's eToy, ETOY. It's ITSAN experience. Please shoot me your information because you two need to sound like y'all need to be able to link ASAP because Kevin, you're an organizer as well. You have an initiative at
Mm.
the White House as we speak. You do things within the community for the veterans. You have your own organization called the Veteran Action Now. You two guys need to link. So we have to move past that because I have another question from P Monroe. I lost it. Where is it? She says Project 2025 versus 2030 agenda. I'm not really sure what she means by that. If can you please elaborate on that a little bit more? But if you guys understand what she said, you can feel free to answer.
I wanted to um, make some comments on what Brother Kevin has said. Um, and I respect his opinion about the code of conduct. For 40 years or more, we who are in the Nation of Islam had a code of conduct
That's right.
on how we are to conduct ourselves with each other. It's a monumental project of even seeing each other as brothers and sisters. But we had to set up a knowledge of self, to know thyself, to love ourselves, to respect our women, to respect our community, and go after people who destroy our community respectfully. We had a code of conduct. But there were some people who saw us as black nationalists and black capitalists. But they never charged the very brothers, other ethnic groups that you just said, Brother Kevin, as Chinese American, as Chinese nationalists, or
Hmm.
Japanese nationalists, or Arabs. Our problem is we think nationalism is synonymous with racism. They set up this nation, America, as a white nation. The founding fathers or the framers of the Constitution never envisioned that we would ever be free. And they put some things in place. Something that you mentioned earlier, Brother Kevin, about the Electoral College and the popular vote. Well, that was set up by the founders. There was a compromise because the southern states wanted to count every slave on the plantation. And the northern Caucasians said, wait a minute, if y'all do that, we'll never win federal elections.
We had a
So they came up
disadvantage.
with the three-fifths
Hmm.
compromise, the three-fifths of a human being. There's a book out there, ladies and gentlemen, called Dark Bargain. Dark Bargain. It's in paperback. When you get that book, you'll find more to why when we vote, that's the only office in the federal government that has two voting systems, the popular vote and the electoral college. The Republicans, for the last maybe for a few years, lost the popular vote. The popular vote, ladies and gentlemen, is one man, one woman vote, winner take all. But with the presidency, that position, the electors in each state, that's why they tally the votes in January.
Hmm.
The electoral college is based upon its founding is based upon our enslavement, the three-fifth compromise. So that's why some of us we elect the president, we go to sleep, wake up the next morning, we say, "Wait a minute, what happened? How could someone win the popular vote and lose the electoral college?" That voting system is not implemented nowhere else abroad. When America goes and talk about democracy, this is the only country where that system is set up. And some out here may say, well, what about the governorship? What about the mayor? What about the dog catcher? What about the senators? That's based upon the popular vote. Winner take all. But when it comes to the presidency, and let me say this, usually when a candidate lose, that's when they want to revisit that system. Hillary was the last one. When she lost, she said, we need to look at the, the electoral college. Okay? It's only when you
Yep.
lose. Remember Al Gore? He was
Yep.
the vice president under Bill Clinton and
Yep.
George W. Bush, right? He, like I said again, here we go, the electoral college and the popular vote. Okay? This system will have to be changed, but it's going to require a lot of us. I don't want to get too much involved in that because it requires. Last time I checked, I think 75% of the country will have to implement that kind of change constitutionally. Okay, that's why we have to learn we have to exercise our right to vote, and we have to know what we're voting for. I don't care if the person's black. I don't care if the person's striped. What are his or her policies? We need to know that. It's so important. And so we, when it comes to nationalism, I think that's something that we have to look at. Someone says The Politics of Jesus is a great book about the Reagan era. Okay. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
The
they was
poli-
commenting
yeah,
when you was talking about the Reagan era.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the Reagan era. Reagan, in their mind, like a god. He was someone that they realized was spoke to their interests. We need when we vote for
Soft
candidates,
conservatism.
right? The word conserve means to maintain a status quo.
Yeah.
Conserve,
Yep.
okay? Conserve, right? So, I'm no enemy of conservatives or liberals. Liberals, they don't use that word L no more. They don't use liberals no more. They use progressive because now, there's some conservatives and Republicans don't like. They don't vote for that word liberal. Liberal means that you want to give away everything. So now they
The
use the
other
word
thing is we
progressive.
need to come up with another, and Al Sharpton could have done it. We need another party separate from the two-party system.
Well, that's tough because guess what? At the end of the day, you know that brother Kevin and sister Etoy and the audience out there.
Nan could have did it. National Action Network could have absolutely became a. But I think that's why he's you know on television right now.
Yeah,
Like,
well, yeah, he has a MSNB
yeah. So I mean,
MSNBC
and
spot.
shout out to Reverend Al. He's necessary. I like him, but I'm just saying, hey, we need a third. That's we don't lobby our vote. So just I'm an independent. I don't vote Republican. I don't vote Democrat. I don't vote. I vote based off of my issues.
Mm,
I based off of my interests. If a
mm,
Democrat is going to deliver my interests, I'll vote for you. If a Republican could deliver my interests, I'll vote for him. You know what I mean? But I don't have any. I don't have friends. I have an interest. You could be a
mm,
friend of my interests, but you can't be my friend.
mm,
You know what I
mm.
mean? So that we also need to become more um, smart voters or educated voters,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and figure like lobby our vote. We've been so dedicated to the Democrats, and we've gotten nothing but benign neglect out of them for all of the years that we've been dedicated to them. Just say, hey, I don't. You don't even got to say I'm voting Republican. I don't know. How y'all vote? I don't know yet. Let me weigh my options. This is how you put people on the hot seat. But what they're doing, and this, you have this influx of migration coming in here. They're trying to really replace the black vote.
They have already.
Hmm. In some
They are.
in some cases,
Um,
and mostly in Chicago and New York. Yes, you're absolutely right.
so for the people that's just now coming in, because we have a few more viewers that's in, the topic is about Project 25. Not if you don't know what that is, that's with the right wing think tank, their agenda for the next Republican president that's going to come in seat, and they're hoping that Trump comes into seat because they plan on with these new legislations, banning the Department of Education, banning the Department of Labor, banning human health and services, no Head Start, no women's rights. They plan on banning everything, including the air and the water. um, it's just
Ironically, did you know Trump came to the Bronx today?
Yeah,
no, I
I know.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanna address something right quick because I think NEPPC is new to my channel, and I want you to understand that this is a safe space, and everyone has their right to have their opinion. Whoever I pick to come up here and and speak, I would love to have you on a podcast one day because you seem like you have some sort of knowledge. I don't want
Yes.
anyone to feel they have to, feel that they have to be attacked or they have to defend something because we all just having a conversation.
Right.
These brothers up here because he also said we need to join organizations. These brother these brothers up here work for organizations to this day, and also Kevin Megget created his own organization. So this is why I
Oh,
say
and
you too.
I belong to various organizations. But
Right.
it's again, it's based off of my interest. I'm not going
Exactly.
to
So
join a I'm not going to join an organization that does not appeal to my interest.
right. So this is what I'm saying, because they
Hmm.
the audience is here one part of the speaker. Before we
Gotcha.
start judging them, and before we start saying innuendos, we need to actually, because this is why we putting the word out right now. We need to come together. This is why we have this podcast. So this is why I said, brother NEPPC, please send me your information so that you guys can put an initiative together, because you sound like you're a powerful brother. And we are here to help move because you said you move the masses. This is what we are here for. So, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. All love, much respect. Please send me your information so we can link, and I can have you on the podcast. And you can speak your, because you sound like you got a lot to say. You sound like you're also educated and you moving the message as well. So that you and brother Kevin can link as well. And y'all can put your organization together and do something big. The Most High and the Creator and the universe works in mysterious ways. All right, moving forward with my questions, because we're a little over an hour. Um,
Oh wow. Okay.
Wait, someone put Bilal Shabazz puts greetings. We can also organize, but we need to be in the street and educate our young. Yes, I definitely agree. We have to get back to that. But there are brothers that's out there are still doing that. It's called the outreach team. People are still out there doing the outreach. So thank you for that, Bilal. I appreciate you. So, like I said, we were talking about Project 2025, just in case anyone doesn't know. My question is, how do we prepare for ourselves? Let's bring this plane to get ready to land. Traffic control.
let,
How
let,
how
yeah.
do we prepare ourselves as for I'm talking about, yes, as a whole, all nationalities, but I'm talking about us as a black community. How
Okay.
do we prepare ourselves? That's my first question. I would like for each one of you to answer, please.
You want to go first, brother Kevin?
Sure. Well, people say knowledge is power, right? When in fact it's the application of knowledge that becomes power. So we got to really know the game. You can't, sometimes we become in a rush to get things done without understanding the problem. We have to take the time, really understand the problem in order to rectify the problem. It's almost like you fixing a car by yourself. You underneath that hood trying to fix it and don't know what you're doing. You're going to waste time. You're going to waste valuable resources. And if you're not careful, you might lose your life if you don't know what you're doing. So we really got to understand what the problem is, right? And understanding what the problem is, that's the knowledge, right? And not become so reactive, but learn to become active when doing things. So,
Mm.
like a good example is someone gets shot and killed, and we in the street protesting. And then I keep going back to that for a reason, because it doesn't work, in my humblest opinion. Um, we need to change how we move. Doesn't make us any less. Um, it doesn't make us any less concerned. It's changing how we do things. We have to move accordingly. So everything that we're doing now, we're stuck in a traditional system where when we're wrong, traditionally we go grab picket signs and close the street down. We're living in a very progressive world now. Let's come up with some progressive solutions to a lot of these traditions, because they're coming at us traditionally. They just throwing things out there. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to do that. Da 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 da. All right, this is how we're going to move as a progressive. We're going to progressively counter what you're doing, and that calls for us owning and controlling things like media. How many branches of government there are, brother?
Are you talking about federally?
Yeah,
Well, the
you got the
judicial,
you got the
legislature,
judicial, you got
and the
the
executive.
legislation and the electoral, right?
The
Right,
legislature, the judiciary,
right.
and the executive, the presidency on the
And
federal
so
level.
the fourth one that no one never really counts on is, and the most powerful is the one that we are on right now, which is media.
Right. Right.
Media
Absolutely.
is the fourth branch of government.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
shout out to you, E, because what you're doing right now, right? Matt, it resonates so well because it's needed so much. You're actually
Mm.
participating in government,
Mm.
and you're controlling a narrative, and that's what we need to be doing. We need to control our narrative. We're given a narrative as opposed to creating one. We need to create our own narrative and control it. And with that, I yield.
Okay.
I say,
Uh.
brother El
y-
Haj Saladin, um,
Okay. Yes.
your response to that question, and then of course NEPPC got a a
Okay.
comment.
Well, I know this brother. Shout out to him. Let me say this. Since they put their hands on us in the 14th century to the present, we have all kind of disagreements on how best to gain freedom, justice, and equality. If that's your way of organizing to march, all praise due to Allah for that. All of us are not, we're not monolithic. We never was, even back in the continent. We have different visions on how to move our people forward in America. It's almost like math, addition. Etoy, your number is 3 plus 4. Brother Kevin is 5 plus 2. Mine's is 6 plus 1. When you equal it, it all says 7. So while we get into 4 plus 3, 5 plus 2, 6 plus 1, it equals 7. As I said earlier in this podcast, our goal should be freedom, justice, and equality. We should be working on that all our lives because we wasted a lot of time. I'm not saying us and those who listen to this podcast, because there are many men and women that listen to this podcast have been engaging in the struggle since they came into consciousness. Our job is to continue to struggle, and we might have to do this until we take that last ride in the Cadillac. Because this fighting for freedom, justice, and equality is not something that we can solve in a lifetime. We got to remember, our ancestors were in bondage for over 300 years. And then when they gave us freedom in 1865, they destroyed Reconstruction through intimidations, denying us the right to vote. We got the right to vote federally in 1965, not 1865. We have only been a part of this experiment maybe like 50 years or 60 years or more. We have to re engage those who speak to your interest, whatever that interest is, organize with them. Minister Malcolm said he had two organizations, one called OAAU, Organization of African American Unity, and he had Muslim Mosque Incorporated. The other organization, he knew many of our brothers, even today. We talk all this about how we love Malcolm, but many of us don't even want to talk about that code. We don't even want to get involved in things that may change us and give us a code of conduct. But we talk
Right.
how great these leaders were. But black nationalism or nationalism only means you can control the economy, the politics in your own community. Just like our brothers and sisters who Jews, they control the economy in their community. It is said that money circulate in their community 6 times before it exit.
Hmm.
6 times. But us, I doubt if it go through one time. Because most of our money we spend is not even in that don't even benefit our community. We spend our money with people that don't even look like us. I have a book called Intellectual Warfare. I'm gonna Intellectual Warfare. I'm trying to put it in without Jacob H. Crothers. Intellectual Warfare.
Mm-hmm.
People need to get that book. It's in paperback. Intellectual Warfare by Jacob H. Crothers. He's a professor, okay, of Kemetic Egyptian Institute in Chicago. He has a doctorate in political science. I don't want to go through his whole resume, but intellectual warfare. We are a fight intellectually. It's a spiritual fight. It's not so much physical, it's a spiritual fight. We got to understand why we hate each other, why we can't organize, why we can't support each other's businesses. It starts, remember I said this before, you told many years, it's from the neck up. Most of our problems from the neck up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
This project
What we
25,
see, hear, think,
2025,
speak.
absolutely. Listen, let's not get this thing twisted. Every president has a policy agenda. When they run, when they have think tanks. How they going to move the country? We should not be surprised about Project 2025. They've been working on it since the Reagan administration. But there are
I
other
just came up
presidents.
with an idea. Oh my God.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to create my own think tank.
You have it right now. Call this podcast.
Yeah, you have it already.
You have it right now.
Hey,
There's
hey, yeah, but
speeches.
you know, hey, right, exactly. Uh-huh. But and of
You are,
course you two have to be a part. I'm sorry to interject, but I just had
yeah,
to.
yes,
Yeah, so we gotta talk. I have an initiative
yeah.
and we have to talk and we have to move
Can I?
forward and we have to get
Could
some
I?
more thinkers. But go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So those are brothers and sisters out there. Please get that book, Intellectual Warfare. There's another book. I'm not trying to create a book list, but we're talking about how best to see ourselves and how to move the
Mm.
ball forward. Called the ISIS Papers. The
Great
ISIS
book.
Papers. Okay. Okay. And this sister,
You
she
put
was
me up
this.
onto that. I put Kevin up onto that.
Okay. And she said that when we don't, I'm paraphrasing, she said, when you don't understand racism, everything will confuse you. Racism is a system set up.
Mm,
These people could die and the system's still in place. Our problem is we have not set up a system, that word code again, code of conduct, that when we die, the struggle will continue. The philosophy will continue.
mm.
Our ideas of freedom, justice, and equality will continue. Because it's not going to be completed in our lifetimes. Because there were certain generations that were derailed by the social structure, by entertainment, by other forces of evil who knew through music, hip hop, R&B, gospel, soul. They saw those words that had an uplifting mechanism. We're talking about words shaping people. Words make people. They knew that. And they said, you know what? We must stop that. These young men and women talking about their queens and kings, and they come from a glorious past. We don't want them, and we're not going to promote that. We want them to peddle the filth that denigrate and destroy our community. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Hmm.
So, as I said again, I know we at a close. We should not be shaking in our boots about Project 2025 like it's some boogeyman. Every presidency, every political party have their policy agenda, even Obama.
Sure.
That's why I said earlier, about an hour ago, when we vote for these candidates, when they come around knocking on your door for a vote, and you go to these community centers and they're there seeking your vote, you need to ask them what you stand for. What is your policy? How are you going to benefit us? Don't act like this is some
So
kind of romance. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have to I
Because at
have
the
to
end of the
land it
day,
because
I know you got to land
I
this
have
plane. But as I said,
to.
those of us, we need to ask our incumbents when they come to our community seeking our vote in a couple of weeks, what do you know about Project 2025? And what are you going to do about it? Because
So
they
to the
can, yeah.
question,
Okay, okay. You
how
got a
do
question,
how do we
please?
prepare ourselves?
By being
Yeah, that
informed.
was the original
Oh
question. How
yeah,
do we
yeah, yeah.
prepare
By
ourselves?
okay,
Okay.
by being informed, by educating ourselves, reading books that will uplift not only the spirit but uplift us and how to find a way to prepare another generation. Because we're not going to solve it all. But at the end of the day, it's about re-educating ourselves, getting the right books, the right lectures to get us out of this spiritual death that we're in. Because it's spiritual. It's not all physical. It's spiritual. It's to educate ourselves, to re-educate ourselves. Because we've been miseducated. Like Dr. Carter G. Woodson said, the miseducation of the Negro. We've been miseducated. Why would someone want to give you an education to free you and liberate you? No
Hmm.
oppressor would want to
Hmm.
teach his slave, the people that he colonized, to be equal with him. That's insanity.
I got
That don't
one
make no
even better.
sense. Yes, sir.
History was written. History was never written by the losers. Only the people that
Hmm.
won
Hey,
wrote
let me say,
history.
absolutely, Brother Cat. Let me say this to each and all of us. There was a young boy once who would always, every Sunday, he used to sit down in the living room and watch Westerns with his father. And then the son said, Daddy, why is it when I always watch Westerns with you, the Indians always lose every Sunday? And the father said, Son, when the Indians start making their movies in Hollywood, they'll start winning.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I hope people got that. When the Indians start making their movies in Hollywood, then they'll start winning. What are we
Sure.
saying here? We must tell our own narrative. We must plot our own
Hmm.
destiny. And the destiny should be freedom, justice, and equality. And there should be no compromise. Freedom, justice, and equality. I don't care if you're a Christian. I don't care if you belong to Egyptology. I don't care if you're a Muslim. I don't care if you're a Buddhist. Our goal should be freedom, justice, and equality.
And that's the code.
Right. Absolutely. And reorganizing how capitalism, how we can benefit from capitalism.
Yeah,
And somebody says, yes, go
that's
ahead.
very
Yeah.
interesting what you just said because
Mhm.
it's not going anywhere. So we should be teaching our kids how to be good capitalists.
Right, right. Not being exploiting,
Right.
but building capital wealth,
Because as
and
of
that's
right
why.
now,
Yes,
America's going through another reconstruction right now as we speak. And
yes,
it's the
absolutely.
housing game. You notice the housing is like a real major issue, not just here in New York, but it's
All
all
over,
over. So,
all
like,
over.
I think, I don't know if the Supreme Court came back with it. I think they were trying to criminalize being homeless.
Yeah,
That's very interesting.
but that's the throwback from the black codes.
Yeah,
When we got emancipation, we had no homes, nowhere to go. They said
right.
you're free, but you had nowhere to live. So guess what? You're hanging out on the corner, and they would lock you up, violating black
To
code
put you back into
laws.
slavery.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So we have a lot of challenges in front of us, and while we going back and forth, which or like almost like a child, nah, 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 my organization is better than yours. I mean, we should be fighting for freedom, justice, and
Justice and
equality.
equality. Sure.
Okay, because the
All right.
oppressor.
Next question.
Oh yeah, go ahead. We got to answer those questions. I want to get those questions out. Yeah, go ahead.
Next question is gonna be because I'm
Yeah, I know.
traffic
Got to land that
control.
plane soon. Yo, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know.
This is kind of like a two-part question. Because I just want to stay on Project 25, but everything
Yes.
ties into it.
Yes.
Everything that you guys are talking about ties into it. So I greatly appreciate the conversation. That's what we're here for.
Yes.
How does this Project 25 affect us if it's implemented? And how does it affect the long-term generations?
Mm, mm, mm. Wow. Woo. Wow. I
Um.
believe. Oh,
Yeah, I
go ahead,
told you
brother
I
Cat.
was
Go
doing,
ahead. No.
I was coming with them questions.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
listening.
Yeah.
it goes back to your interests. What are our interests?
Mm.
If Head Start is our interest, it affects it long term. I mean,
Mm.
it goes back to also having your own solutions to. We got it's this. They're playing chess and we're playing checkers. We need to be playing chess too. So in the
Mm.
event that Head Start is taken out, what are we prepared to do to give our own children a head start?
Mm. Mm.
In the event
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the other things on this on the chopping block they want to
Department
do?
of Labor,
Department of Labor. How
Department
do
of
we need to go
Education.
back to manufacturing. We need to start creating something and trading. How do we do what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad always, it seems like every other ethnicity listened to him but us, and that was to do for self.
Oh boy.
Chinese do for self. Indians do for self. Everyone do for self. We the only ones sitting here pondering, what if?
Well, brother Kevin, that what you just said speaks volumes because we have to understand that Mr. Muhammad was made out to be an enemy of America. He did nothing no more than any
Mm-hmm.
other ethnic group that we have expressed. They remember what he said. Our community is like a welcoming mat. Everybody comes here and benefit off of us economically. But because of suspicion and doubt, because of the COINTEL program, because they had agents everywhere, and remember now, most of our people had a Christian orientation. So because of Mr. Muhammad's program, because he was a Muslim, many of us didn't see his value. Malcolm was the great articulator, but Malcolm brought the solution through the language of Mr. Muhammad, and that's why he was successful. But to many, Malcolm was a threat to how America's policies was going to be implemented in the black community. They needed consumers. They needed people to consume heroin, cocaine, alcohol. There's industries that people look in our community and say, you know what? I need these lungs for the next 50, 60 years to smoke cigarettes. So they set up billboards. They had a vested interest. They didn't want Mr. Muhammad's program. He had a code of ethics, a code do for self, a code put down the alcohol, put down the cigarettes, straighten up, put a spine in your back. Understand, yes, you're the original men and women of this planet, but you still have to eat. He said, no people is free if you have your stomach in the hands of the enemy.
Mm.
I think, in my humble opinion, Brother Kevin and Etoy and the listening audience, we need to review Mr. Muhammad's program, Dr. King's program, the Black Panthers, and every other organization that spoke of the best of our people. Because all of us are not going to see it the same way. And it would be disingenuous of us
Okay,
to
and your
discredit.
your
Yes.
answer to the question,
What's the question?
your answer to the question. Okay, how does the Project 2025 affect us if it's implemented, and how does it affect the long term generation? It's a two part
Okay.
question.
Well, then if it's implemented, we can overcome it. Listen, our people were in chains, came out of a slave
Mm,
system that destroyed us. We'll just have to work harder. That may force us to really organize because sometimes we have this honeymoon. I
mm,
think that it was a period where we fumbled the ball. I'm not suggesting anybody on this podcast did, but there was a generation that grew up seeking their own enrichment, that didn't want to work with the group, didn't want to work with the whole, didn't want to organize. And we are the beneficiaries of men and women who literally got their skulls cracked or in some ocean river that disappeared because they wanted the right to vote. They wanted us to be treated as equals. Hear that word, freedom, justice, and equality. So even if these policies are implemented, we must still organize and keep our eye on the prize. That's the answer. Because white supremacy is a
mm.
system set up and it's an ideology. They can still die. Those who implement it, as long as the policies are still, it's going to work. So we must continue to struggle, to fight for freedom, justice, and
Equality is a
equality.
very tricky word. You know why? Because it's something that your oppressor absolutely does not want you to have. But it's also, as a
But let me say,
people, as a
right, but let me say
people,
this.
it's
I'm not
it
suggesting we be
scares the
equal
hell
with
out
him.
of us because what comes with equality? Responsibility.
Right,
And
right.
truth of the matter is, this is now I'm talking for myself, but this is an
Yeah,
observation that I've seen.
yes.
We don't want equality. Sometimes I think we want comfortable slavery. We want white mommy and daddy to pick up the heavy bricks. So let's say everyone, the white supremacy dies tomorrow, right? And all white people are just erased from this planet, hypothetically, right? After we finish partying for about a week, right? We're gonna have to aggregate water. There are things we're gonna grids. There are things that we just don't know how to do,
I know.
but they're
Maybe we do.
carrying the heavy load. And so you got to say to yourself, do we really want equality? I do. I really want equality. Do we really want equality, or do we want someone to pat us on the back or on our head and say, "Oh, I understand how you guys. I understand you how y'all feel." I don't want that. That's no use to me.
I think
And
that,
so
brother Kev.
we got to
Yeah,
be
go ahead.
honest.
Sorry.
We got to be honest with ourselves.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
once you're honest with yourself, then you could be honest. Then you could be honest with the person that's oppressing you. I
Well,
yield.
you know what? But we have to know what slavery is, because some of us think slavery is, putting chains on someone's wrists and their ankles. It's slavery of the mind now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
Okay,
was getting ready to say that's
that's
mental
that's that's where we
slavery.
are. Slavery of the mind. Okay, and so as long as many of us or some of us still seek validation from Caucasian people, then we're always going to be where we are, seeking validation from them. When I say equality, I don't mean necessarily equality with them. As Minister Malcolm said, they're
I
nobody,
no, yeah,
and this
because
was
they're
hard
not
what
the
he said.
yardstick
He
of
said nobody, right? He said they're not the
yeah,
criteria to be equal with. Okay, so but I
right,
agree with you. Some of us, when we hear that word equality, oh, we want to be equal with whites. No, we want to be equal with the human family of the planet Earth.
right.
Everybody, if it's equality, then everyone, if they're created by God, if we believe in a higher power, we all are we are all the same. Okay, and our character and how we live will determine whether or not we are free and justified to seek justice. But these principles, they're only three: freedom, justice, and equality. All people want that. The most
Mm-hmm.
corrupt person, the most evil person want that. He may be distorted, it may be distorted, but he wants freedom and he wants some kind of justice. And that word justice, look at the word justice, just ice. That's a whole nother. Why would like I said again, justice means fair dealing, but we have to treat each other justly before we try to
Right.
ask someone else for
To treat us right,
justice.
right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have another question. Kev, I want you to answer this first. So, being that they're trying to ban, if this is implemented, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau,
Mm.
how do entrepreneurs prepare for 2025 and beyond?
We've never had that. We've never had that bureau when we when we were bartering in Africa. We never had
Mm.
that bureau when we were bartering in America. So why do we need the
Mm.
bureau now?
Right.
If I need
I
some
like that.
soap right now and I ain't got no money, I know how to get. E, what you need?
Right.
I got these glasses over here. It's gonna be sunny tomorrow.
Right.
We know how to barter. That's the one thing we know how to do.
Right.
So that
Mhm.
even when money becomes obsolete, we're gonna find ways to trade. It's encrypted in our DNA.
Mhm.
And every
I
day,
like
I
that.
believe the fight now becomes how and when is BRICS going to weaken our dollar? I mean, I don't think
Mm.
we'll see it in our lifetime, but I believe it'll happen. And then what'll happen is you'll
Mhm.
tap right into your DNA. Like, whoa, what did we do back then? You know what I've been doing a lot of lately? So I have a community garden. I grow fruits and vegetables for veterans that are homebound that they can't get out. But I take my kids fishing all the time now. We go fishing a lot now. You know what I mean? And so one of the things that I also try to implement is if shipping and trucks stop running tomorrow out of protest and they stop filling up your grocery stores, how you gonna feed yourself? I'm gonna eat. I don't miss too many meals. You know that. You know what I mean? Um, but we have to really look at things like that. And
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
try to go fishing now like twice a month.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm,
And I'll fill my freezer up full of
Mm,
porgies and mackerel and stuff like that.
mm,
You know what I mean?
mm.
And
mm-hmm.
um, the point is, I'm not relying on someone to do what I can do for myself, and that's why I've
I
been.
remember me
That's why I
and had
do
that
it.
conversation a few years ago. I think it
Right.
was 2018 or 2019 when you said that to me,
Hmm.
that you was getting into, gardening. You was actually starting it in your house at first, and you said,
Yep.
either like true freedom is to be able to control your own food. You don't have to wait
Yep.
for nobody else to feed you. What if the supermarket shut down tomorrow? How you gonna feed yourself? So I remember
Right.
that. So kudos to you for still keeping that up and making
Thank
it
you.
bigger and actually making it into a community garden. Like
Hmm.
that's what's up. Like I have to come out there and volunteer and get some tips
Please do. You'll
from
love
you.
it. You'll love it.
So L,
Yes.
I
Oh,
know I will. So your answer to that question?
okay. Well, you know, a lot of these topics that we're discussing can't be all solved in 45 minutes or an hour. We have to we have to truly be independent.
Mm,
You know, some of us think that we don't have to do anything but reap the rewards of those who struggle for us. We all have to be involved. As I said earlier, I'm not telling anyone who to vote for. You vote your interests, but know that when you vote, you know what their policies are. Not so much their race, not so much they have a D in front of their name or an R. What are their policies? If they implement Project 2025, we must still keep living. We must still keep struggling. We must still do for self. We must still fight for freedom, justice, and equality, and a better quality of life for the future generations of our children and grandchildren. We cannot make any excuses. Like I said earlier, these policies was implemented under Ronald Reagan. This is not nothing new. And guess what? Project 2025 is not the only policies that the government is going trying to implement. There are other things they're trying to do right under our nose because we speak or our leadership is no further than our nose. But they think long term. We
hmm,
think no further than our nose. That's the problem. And we think something's going to be given to us. Like they're going to hand us our freedom. They're going to hand you justice. They're going to hand you equality. Most of our legal fight, excuse me, Brown v. Board of Education, our civil rights, our Voting Rights Act, to be treated as a human being, our people had to fight for that. The question we got to ask ourselves, all right, so what they implement Project 2025? Are you going to stop living? You're going to stop reading? You're going to stop voting for people who can come into office and to change this outcome? That's what we need to do. We must do something about it. Most of us that got involved in organizations and religion, we got involved to stop what is going on. You got to ask yourself, what are you going to do? So what they implement Project 2025? You going to just lay down and just let it happen? Or are you going to fight? Or are you going to vote for candidates that speak
right.
to your interests? Or matter of fact, are you going to vote? Are you going to run for office? I mean, we can't allow this project to scare the hell out of us
Right.
because there's other policies they got out of.
Hmm.
They got other policies.
That's right.
Okay, we've been bombarded by a conservative movement, and mind you, now some liberal Democrats believe just what they believe. We can't get caught up in all these different titles
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, they have the same agenda. Because when I look in the inner cities of America, and I've been all over the country, most of these cities were governed by Democrats. And when you go to certain, I don't want to call the different cities. Many of you have been there. It's so unsafe. Uber don't even want to go in their community. You come out the airport, you can't even
Mm,
get a cab to go in certain inner cities. Under Democratic mayors, under Democratic governors. Okay? So we got to hold the Democrats responsible too. It's almost like a detective, you're a suspect, and one detective slap you around and another one give you a McDonald's, a Big Mac. They all work together, right? You're a suspect. That one's slapping you around with a telephone book. The other one say, yeah, I know that my partner, he's a little rough, and he gives you a burger. He want a confession. They're both working together. Like you said earlier, it's two wings of the same bird. As Minister Malcolm said, it's a political con game. And if I'm playing cards with you all, and the cards are marked, and Kevin says, you know what, Saladin, let me look at those cards. And he discovered that the cards are marked, the game is over. The game is deception. Until we say it's enough, I don't care what policies they implement. We still must be fighting for justice and equality and being an independent people in America financially. Because we can have all the politics, but if we have no economic growth, goes for nothing.
Okay.
We must
Well, we gotta
unify.
close.
I know, and you've been very generous because
So I
now
just
we're nine.
we
Yeah,
gotta
go ahead.
we gotta close. But I was prepared for this because I said I
I
have
know it.
two long-winded, educated brothers up here. I said each of this is not
Oh
gonna be
my
an
God.
hour.
Yeah,
I said
yeah.
an hour and a half, but I told myself it's gonna go a little bit over an hour and a half each. So you know that already. But you know what? This is what we have to do. So, any last words?
I do. I know. I'll let Kevin speak first.
Okay, I
He want.
appreciate you, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Um, Vote, be accounted for, stand upright, and make a difference. You know, you have a legacy. We have a legacy behind us, and a lot of us have, myself included, particularly and especially. I got more years behind me than I got in front of me. It's my
Mm,
job now to show my children that this is what they've inherited and how to maneuver.
mm,
It's their right to be able to say, my father gave me the tools to recognize. He gave me the game. I see what the game is,
mm,
and I can recognize it. And I stand on the shoulders of great leaders that came before me with a similar message and a similar
mm,
concern. And like our brother said, we're not here forever, but this problem is going to be here for a long time. So we have to figure out how to navigate through this and counter what's
mm,
happening to us. And that's going to
mm,
take a lot of education, not in the school with them teaching us, but you being at home teaching your children.
mm,
I
mm.
yield.
Uh, can I speak, Sister Etoy? Okay. Um,
Sure.
I agree. Okay, I agree. But I must cite a two verses from the Quran. Allah says, I believe it's in the fifth, called the stars. Allah says in one verse, man gets nothing except what he strives for. And the next verse says, and his striving will be seen.
Mm.
Man gets nothing except what he strives for. If you strive for nothing, you get nothing.
Mm.
If you strive for freedom, justice, and equality, you will achieve it. But it's going to be some sweat, some blood. It's interesting that that chapter talks about stars. The best NBA stars, they practice day and night. The best R&B soloists, they practice. The tennis stars, they strive, they struggle, and their striving will be seen. If we strive for nothing, we get nothing. Our ancestors who came to this continent, they knew their situation was hopeless. I'm talking about those who got put their feet on the soil here over 400 years. But we're here now. We must strive for freedom, justice, and equality. Nothing's going to be handed to us. We must fight for that. And we may not achieve it in our lifetime, but as long as we pass on the vision and the knowledge for the next generation. And that's all I have to say. And I'd say this: the Project 2025 is nothing for us. It's something that we should be concerned about, but there are other policy agendas that these conservatives and some Democrats are trying to plot against our future and our generation. We just got to keep our eye on the ball and vote and make change. And we can do it by God's help. Thank you so much.
I say, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much to the both of you. I knew this was going to be a good one. Um, you know, thank you for coming through. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for coming through and blessing the stage, taking out 2 hours of your time to be on this podcast just to
Thank you.
give your knowledge and your input. Time is precious. I have a poem called Time, and
Mm,
time is precious. So I want to say thank you for your time, and also thank you to everyone that's on this podcast watching and listening. I want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for the comments. Um thank you for the input, thank you for the insight. I want to say thank you to everyone, because without y'all I will not have a podcast. So I just want to say thank you. I greatly appreciate you all. Let's please keep this conversation going. Please spread the word. We actually have to form together, and we have to what Kev don't like to say is organize. But Kev is an organizer. Kev is an organizer. This is what he does. He's always
Yeah,
but
I
you know, in
do.
the
organizing
word,
something.
But
but
again,
it's
my
funny.
thing is,
I guess.
I stay within my interests.
But you know what? In the word organize, you have organ, right?
Right,
We have vital organs, right? So we got, and most of our vital organs is protected by our rib cage, right?
right,
Oh man, we go into another discussion, but it's nothing wrong with organization as long as the principles benefit the whole.
right.
Okay,
Sure.
we have a lot of organizations that only benefit the individual,
Right.
you know. Okay, it's about benefiting the whole. When ants work together, ants underneath our feet right now,
They could
they
do
work
amazing things.
right. They lift 10 times their own weight. They have a colony. They work for the best interest for the queen. Okay, same thing with the bee. These are industrious creatures that are certainly mentioned in the Quran, those who read that holy book, and in the Bible too. But I think we can learn a lot from the ant and the bee because they are social structures. I'm talking about economic systems right now in
Hmm.
America that
Hmm.
watch the bee and the ant and build the world right here in America. Okay, so we need to be just as industrious as they are. They don't have no
So again,
ant welfare. Yeah, yeah.
we
Okay.
still have people new coming in because somebody else came into the
Wow.
chat. This
Wow.
conversation, yes, this conversation is about Project 2025. And if you don't
Yes.
know what that's about the first 180 days of the presidency of the first Republican in that seat for 2025. So they're hoping that Trump get into seat because they're going to ban. Who came together with this is the right wing think tank, and they're going to ban Head Start for the children, ban books, rights for the women. They're going to take money from public schools and fund charter schools. They're trying to ban Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Labor, the Department of Education, the Consumer Financial Bureau, the environmental law, which means that they're trying to govern the Clean Air and Water Act. They're going to ban states from doing their own environmental law. They also talk about I didn't say this, the Christian um theocracy, how with the families, the LGBT community, they say this is the degeneration. And also, and not to name and just to name a few, they're going to criminalize women with abortion. And I said that because somebody made a comment, and I'm not sure if they know what the conversation's about. He said, stop organizing the community with the tradition for Martin Luther King. That's what we should do. So I just had to I know this person just came in. This is actually my uncle. Hi, Uncle Eric. Just to catch you up to speed. That's what the conversation is about. Project 2025. Okay. So I just want to say thank you so kindly. You hear my birds back there?
Yeah, I hear them.
They
They're
want to be a
like
part of the conversation.
they
And
are.
right. And if anybody that knows me knows that I am getting over the fear of birds, and this is the time in my life that I cannot walk with fear, especially when I'm doing the kind of work that I am doing. And I'm not gonna let no bird scare me no more. So
Mm.
I just want to say thank you again to my guests, my co-hosts. Thank you to all my the followers, and please like, share, subscribe. This would not be a podcast without El Haj Saladin, without Kevin C. Meggett, and without all of you. I greatly, 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 greatly appreciate you all. I love you all. All right. So
Thank
I'm
you
gonna
so
let you
Right
much.
go,
back at
and we're gonna chat
Thank you.
in a few minutes.
All
Thank
right.
you. All right.
Peace.
Peace.
All right.
Peace.
Peace. Peace. So again, yes, this is Eat Toy. It's an experience podcast. Don't think too hard. I want to say thank you so kindly for tuning in. This episode was about Project 25, and of course this is a mental health podcast. And which I should have asked them before we got off. I just was so worried about the time because we already 2 hours in. Um, how will this affect your mental health? So when you close your eyes at night, how do these policies affect you? How can you prepare yourself? Also, and you know how I always end. What have you done for yourself lately? Have you done anything for yourself today? We have so much going on in the world. You have to take care of everyone else. You have to go to work. You have to come home. You have to cook, clean. Sometimes, somebody may step on your toe. Somebody may cut you off in traffic. You know, and it just may deter your energy. I would say send that person love. Send yourself love first. Always come back to you. It always starts and ends and begins with you. So I challenge you. Do something for yourself today. The night is not over. It's only 10 o'clock. Whether it's eat a piece of chocolate, whether you go in the mirror and say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. No one is perfect. So you just make sure you love you. And I'm gonna end with that. So before we go, I have to say thank you. I have to say come to some events that's coming up that we're going to be taking part of. I want to say thank you and shout out to Lyric Gang Music from Unique Influence Apparel and the Chosen NYC. They are having a mental health awareness fashion show, and yours truly will be a guest speaker. It's on May 30th, May 31st from 5 to 10. The location is 333 Church Avenue, New York, New York, zip code 10013. Again, that's going to be May 31st. It's a dope fashion show. Lyric, she's actually a dope artist. She's a dope fashion designer, and she's also a mental health advocate and also a public speaker. And what I will say, when I used to curate these showcases at Harlem Nights, when she used to come through, she used to turn it out. She used to bring about 30 people with her, and she used to have that stage lit. So for her to ask me to come and bless her stage when she always blessed my stage, I am so happy and so thankful to be a part of her experience. Next, we have from Man Up in Brooklyn, New York. They having a job fair on May 30th. So hit up Man Up. They're located at 876 Skank Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11207. It's May 30th. They're going to have different organizations. His goal is to hire 1,000 people before the summer before the summer hits. As what I will say is that brother Latif, that's who always runs these job fairs. He works so hard to get our brothers and sisters employed. He always sends me information. He always says, sister, please blast my flyer. And I always forget, but today I said, send me something so I could blast it. And he also has his own business, and which I'm so proud of him and his brothers. What they have is they own boat company. Yes, on Chelsea Pier, so they will take you around the city lines. So when you get to Man Up, ask for brother Latif. If you're looking for a job, go with your resume. If you don't have a job, have a resume, don't worry about it. He will hook you up. Brother Latif at Man Up, MANUP, located at 876 Skank Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11207. They having a major, major job fair. So yes, so thank you so kindly. We have one more comment. Let's go on. Let's see what's going on here before we get up out of here. Okay, well, I guess it's done. All right, so thank you. Tune in next week. We're gonna have Queen Liberace, and then the week after that, we're gonna have Lady P. I am so excited to have these sisters come up and tell their testimony. They are both artists. I met them through events for me doing my spoken word and curating showcases, and I look forward to this conversation. Thank you so kindly for tuning in each and every week. Again, please like, share, subscribe. Please get this message out. I know this conversation went a little long today, but I couldn't stop the conversation. I said an hour and a half. We went 2 hours. So again, peace and blessings to you. Remember, your mental health is the most important thing. Um, the power to let go. Whatever doesn't serve you anymore, let it go. Because when you hold on to things, you're not letting room come in for the new, for your blessings. I had to learn that. Let go. Let go of negative thoughts. Let go of environments, of people, situations, no matter what it is that's in your life that you feel is holding you back. Also, what is it that I always end with this as well? What is it that you would see yourself doing for free? I'm doing this for free. I ain't worried about no money. Me getting this word out is so fulfilling for me. What is it that you would wake up and do for free? I had one person say they want to be a nurse. One person said they want to do cleaning. They start a cleaning business. It's never too late. I don't care what your financial situation look like. I don't care what how old you are. I don't care how much things that you think, like I said, think may be holding you back. All you have to do is say, I am worthy and I deserve this and I am doing this for me. Sometimes you have to be selfish. Sometimes you have to say, fuck everybody and I'm doing this for me. Excuse my language, but this is real life here. Sometimes you have to do that because if you don't, you're going to deplete yourself. We give so much energy out we give so much energy out to everyone else, especially if we are a mother, if we are father. We have some great fathers out there. We're not gonna leave them out. We're not gonna leave the kings out. We have some great individuals out there. And I say to you, whether you're a king or queen, do something for you, no matter how small, no matter how big it is. And I wish you all the best of luck. See you next week. Peace. Don't think too hard.